America's backbone was built on blue-collar business grit, grind, and muscle. This is where you stop working for the business, and the business starts working for you.
Welcome, Blue Collar Millionaires. Kevin and Chris back, and we are ready to help you guys become a multi-millionaire in the blue collar industry. Unfortunately, 81% of small business owners are 2 weeks away from overdrafting their business bank account. That is a real statistic. That is an alarming statistic. And that only lets me and Kevin, we were discussing this earlier before we started this, it lets us know that we have a lead generation problem in businesses because revenue solves all problems. And if you have leads, you're going to have revenue because there is opportunity. But if you are not marketing and you are marketing in the wrong areas, then you're going to suffer in leads and you're going to be a part of that statistic. Kevin, what's your thoughts around this statistic and some of the things that should be tracked so we know what the heck we're doing out there?
Well, we're talking about tracking sales. You got to track your output to know what your input's going to be like. How many do I have to do of X to get one sale? And then knowing the numbers and your profit margins and what that knows, you need to know that too. So I'm going to give you super specific on mine. I know the exact number to a penny what it is, but we'll just call it $1,000. It's very close to that. Every time I get a new approved complex, Kevin Marin, I'm going to make $1,000, okay, for a gutter cleaning. We are going to do that on an average 5.4 times. So I'm going to make $5,400 of money off that. That keeps me super motivated when I wake up. I want to know that. So then I need to know how am I getting those places? So I'm going to give you an example. Now, when I first started, this is before email, this is before Google Earth or anything. I was walking into complexes and I figured out I had to walk into 24 complexes to get one approved job. Okay. So I literally would, on Sunday, I would plan out my entire week. It would take me hours to do that, right? I would figure out all the complexes I was going to go talk to, where they were located. I would put them in order. There was internet, but email marketing and stuff wasn't a thing. So I could go on there and figure it out. And then I would say, I got to look at 24. So that means I needed to walk in 3 places an hour for 8 hours. Okay. A lot of them were like next door to each other. So that wasn't that hard. And if I walked in 24 and I did that every day, 5 days a week, that's 120. I knew I was going to end up with 5 jobs that week. That's pretty good. 5 complexes. Okay. Yeah. So there was lots of days where I was at 16 and I was hungry, or I felt like going home, or somebody called me, or I felt like I got to do something. I wouldn't do it. I was set and I'm doing that because I knew it. And then I was keeping that data. The way I got that was when I was first doing it, I was keeping it back then in a notebook, and I was literally, hey, I went to 100 spots. I got this many. I did this many proposals. I got this. I used to have to fax in proposals. I used to do this many proposals. I got this many approved, and I started breaking the number. I wanted to know how many I had to walk in a day to do it. Once I knew that now I'm just a monkey. All I got to do is get in my car and go. Listen to some music, walk into some places, talk to some people. Can I bid on your gutters? Find out how many buildings they are, do a quick price in my head, get to the next place. And then I'll do all the proposals at night. I'm not doing any of that during the day. I need to talk to people. The reason I knew how to do that was because I did a similar thing on knocking on doors with lawns. So I knew how many doors I had to knock on to, how many doors I would knock on to actually talk to somebody. I think I had to knock on back then about 8 doors to talk to one person. I used to know it. I had it in the notebook. So it means I got to knock on 24 doors to talk to 3 people in the middle of the day. Now I found out there was a better way to do that, doing it on Saturdays. I was basically getting 1 out of 2. And then I would know, hey, if I gave how many proposals and how many people I could get to let me walk around the yard and give a price. And then it's just, you're just a monkey. I keep using that because I want to make it's that simple. It's not that hard then. That kept me motivated. So then when it was a Saturday and I was out with my buddies and I was 22 years old on a Friday, and I said, you know what I don't feel like doing on Saturday? Knocking on doors. I knew, hey, if I go knock on 24 doors today, I'm going to talk to 12 people. 8 of them are going to let me give them a price. 3 of them are going to say yes. And I'm going to have 3 new customers because I got up hungover on a Saturday and did what the other knuckleheads in my apartment, because I was the guy at the house where we all drank, they weren't willing to do it. And then I would go do it. And I don't know. I just had this but if I didn't have that data, you think I wouldn't have overslept sometimes and just been like, hey, let's go get breakfast. Let's go play basketball. I would still play basketball with them in the afternoon, but I had a full day. So I was super aggressive like that and knowing numbers. And for me, I needed to know that data and those numbers. I know it to this day on different stuff, and it keeps me very motivated. I knew it when I was 20.
The data built your confidence.
Yeah.
But I believe this is why most people never take a large enough sample size, and they never believe in their effort, mainly because they don't have enough data to look at. You were just explaining exactly how you understood a Saturday was a better effort than a weekday. How many doors you needed to move through just to get a response, someone to actually answer the door, and then how many of those answers you were closing. It becomes a math equation. Businesses are not a skill set. Businesses are a marketing company that has data. That's what they should be. Unfortunately, they're not. Most small businesses are not that. Most small businesses start as a skill set, and just by market demand, they get some organic growth. They get some organic customers just because they somehow or another, a friend tells a friend. But when the economy gets hard, those businesses go out of business because they didn't realize they were actually a marketing company. They have to have efforts generating a lead that's going to produce a customer that will pay. And without the data, you're going to lose confidence. And then without that confidence, you won't wake up on the Saturday morning, or you won't put money behind it. What if you've got a marketing effort that's digital, that's costing you some money, but you're not tracking the leads? Every single call that comes through our office, we ask, how did you hear about us? If I'm using multiple different types of ad campaigns, I'm using call rail so that I've got a tracking number so that I can see how many calls came from that. Then at the end of the day, I'm looking to see what type of money it produced. That's why we're tagging inside of our CRM system where they came from. Google will give you a list, a little whisper ahead of time. You can even have call rail that gives you a whisper, and it whispers the campaign. If you name the campaign, you can go inside of the call rail platform and you can see how many calls came in. But on your end as a customer, even if you hire an agency, you as a business owner need to be tracking on your end where the customer came from and how much money they spent with you. Because at the end of the week, you need to be able to add up those dollar signs, and you need to know, is this campaign paying off? Because this is why they use A/B testing. Your copy might be off. You might not be talking to the correct pain point that's going to trigger an action from that customer. If you're chest to chest, you might be mentioning the wrong stuff that customer just doesn't care about. Yeah. If you don't have data and you don't have something to look at to see, then how do you make these decisions? Our friend Kevin and a business partner as well, Mark Evans DM, we're in a couple of different businesses with him. He says data, not drama. And there's a reason he says that. And that's the reason he's so successful, is because he looks at the math. He doesn't look at the emotions.
It always drives me nuts if I had sales guys or people and they get caught up in drama and not data. I didn't use Mark's thing, but I love that thing. But I always tell them, I remember I had one person said, we were trying to get subcontractors. And she says, man, none of them want it. None of them want like our rates, or none of them like this. And I said, what's the data on it? She's like, I don't know. I just know none of them like it. So I said, pull the actual data. And she was giving me a hard time. I ended up getting rid of her. I had another person pull it. We looked at 61 people. We saw that 13 people were doing jobs for us. 27 liked the rates. 13 became things. Out of those 27, 13 only had the proper insurance and everything. So out of that 27, almost 50% of the people liked it. What the hell are you talking about? Yeah. And I showed it to her, and it was like, I showed it to her on a Zoom, and she was like almost red in her face. I said, you said nobody. You said nobody, because I was so annoyed by her. And she was like, I meant like nobody. I said, how about like 50% like it? And I said, we don't need to, because she was trying to get me to, oh, you need to do this and this. And she just was trying to find probably in her own mind, she just thought it was not working, but she didn't have data. So I like to know data. And to go off on a couple things, this will really encourage you. I'm going to see, you might think I'm a psycho for this, but I'm going to tell you two quick stories. The second one sounds a little crazy. So I figured out back in 2011 and 12, I had I still had real estate debt. I was living in a condo, had a girlfriend, and I had some money, a little bit of money, but I still felt broke because I had debt. And I was up all the time at night, and I was collecting emails, and I had a certain type of email, which was a community manager, which was, I knew the association they did. And I called that 1A because that was my best email. And my girlfriend was looking over my shoulder. She's like, what are you doing all the time? You're getting all these emails. What do you do? And I said, every one of these emails is worth $97. And she said, how do you know that? And I said, well, every time I send this many, I get this many proposals. I get this many approved. This is my average thing. And she said, so you gross $97? I said, no, $97 before taxes ends up in my bank account. And then she says, she starts scrolling, right? And there's just like hundreds and thousands of emails. She says, so this is like, you're going to make like $1 million. And I said, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire doing this. Like, I already knew that because this was my third season doing it. And I was already making a bunch of money, like hundreds of thousands. And look what happened. I mean, that's how much I knew it. But she believed it because I was giving her like $97.13. And I was explaining. She was very smart, so she got it. So that's one thing. Here's another thing. I used to put out flyers back in the day. That was a big thing in the early 90s, putting out flyers. I figured out, of course, how many calls you get for every 100 flyers, how many flyers I need to do that I do proposals. So I figured out the number of how many flyers. It was, I think, 97. I had to put out 97 flyers to get somebody to allow me to do their lawn. That was a pretty good response rate back then. But I was cutting grass all day, and I was finishing at 7 o'clock at night, and then I would go off and maybe play basketball and go hang out with my girlfriend. And I was leaving my girlfriend's house at like 12 o'clock, and she says to me one day, I had to drive like 30 minutes home, and she says, I don't know how you get up at 6 a.m. and leaving that. I said, yeah, but I'm not even done. This is the crazy thing. I used to go out and put flyers out at night. So I used to go to a neighborhood on the way home, turn my car off because you can't drive around with lights. And I used to go stick flyers in people's mailboxes. And I would go put 97 out. And then I would go home, and it would be 1:30 in the morning. And I would feel like, yeah, I just picked up a customer. And did I always get a customer off that 97? No, but the average. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling her that. And she's like, you're a freaking psycho. She was like, you're going to get arrested. I said, no, I'm not. I'm going to make a lot of money. And I did that, and I ended up buying a house really early on, a 2-family house, and that was a lot of that. That's what I had in my head. So does that sound crazy? I just like numbers. So when I hear people, like, if I didn't know the numbers, you think I was going to go out at midnight and start dropping flyers off?
No, there was no
I would have did that
motivation.
2 days in a row. I was doing it all the time, because I wanted. And then back then you had an answering machine. I used to get excited because then I would go wake up the next morning, cut grass. I'd come home at 7 o'clock, and I'd see that light blinking. And there'd be 3 people, and they say, hey, yeah, I got your flyer. And then I say, where do you live? And I say, hey, I'll drive by in the morning. I'm going to give you a price. I'll stick it in your thing. I knew it was going to work. It was gold.
That's what math does. That's what data does. Data raises your belief system.
Belief.
And then it motivates you. And with that motivation, you'll start putting more effort and money behind it. And then what happens? The inevitable. You start to grow. Revenue starts coming in. Stress starts reducing because you have more than 2 weeks worth of payroll and overhead in your bank account, and you start stacking cash. And you can start believing even more in the American dream that the entrepreneurs believe in. Like so many entrepreneurs say, I get into it for freedom, but yet they end up getting into it working way more than what they've ever worked at a W-2 job for. And it's because they didn't focus on lead generation and their data. It's sad. It's really, really sad. And this is why we created Blue Collar Millionaire, because we wanted to make sure that it's not complicated. Kevin, none of that stuff was complicated. It's just
No,
effort.
but and just so if somebody's like, that sounds crazy, I'm not doing all that. I'll tell you right now, in 2024 or in 2022, 23, it is so much easier to make money now than it was
Oh,
when I started. It is so much easier. And I'm not some old head telling you that. That is the fact. You got SEO, you got Facebook, you got free social media, you got free phones. I didn't even have a cell phone back then, or you had 30 minutes and you paid like $100 for it. Like, it's so easy right now. But the thing is, it's easy for everyone. So you have to then step up, know your numbers, see what works, track it, and then do more of it. So much of this stuff can be done sitting on your couch, listening to music on your phone. You don't have to go out and put flyers out in the middle of the night. Those days are over. When I was doing those, collecting those emails, I was sitting there half the time with drinking a couple beers and collecting emails. That's what I was doing on a Friday night. Maybe we'd go to the movies and then I would do that till 1 a.m. I liked it because I was picking up $97.13 on every one of those emails. It was a free for all. I was ahead of it. I caught lightning in a bottle and I went all in on it. Those days are over, even though there's still a lot of value to those emails if you write them good. But for people to say now it's hard, it's easy.
You just got to know the right direction, and then you got to implement. Kevin, where can they get more of this? Can they get more access, and where can they get support so that we make sure they're implementing?
All right. Of course, you guys know our group. I hope you do. You follow us at Facebook on Blue Collar Millionaire. Just put in Blue Collar Millionaire Facebook. It's the first thing that pops up. By the time this is released, we're over 100,000 members. So there's a great community in there. We have bluecollarmillionaire.net, bluecollarmillionaire.net. Within there, we have our Shopify store. You can get cool stuff for Blue Collar Millionaire. It's always cool sweatshirts to wear. People always ask me about it. But we have in there our accelerator group and our boardroom elite. The accelerator group has all kinds of stuff like we're talking about. We go over in great detail how we do different things, from affiliate marketing to getting commercial jobs to getting all the leads you want to hiring A players, soup to nuts. We go over different subjects all the time. It's all in there in a video library. It's only $79 a month. It's not even $20 a week. We're losing money on it. It costs more of that for our team to put it at a level and host it on Go High Level. It's all there. Like, if you go in there and you just take 1 out of 20 things we do, you go all in on implement that, you're going to make way, way more money than you would ever spend on the $79 a month. It's a no-brainer. Then we have another group, Boardroom Elite. Chris, tell us about Boardroom Elite.
Boardroom Elite gives you more access to me and Kevin, and you're going to be in a room with guys that are making a decent amount of money. It's just a level up from the accelerator. We're on a Zoom call for an hour minimum every single week. So for one hour every single week, me and Kevin plus the rest of the members, and we're deep diving into your business. It doesn't matter what hurdle you have. Somebody in that room has already gone through that, and they have the keys to success to get you through that hurdle at a much faster rate. And you still get access to all the accelerator trainings. And then you get some discounts when we do our live pop-up mastermind events, small mastermind events. You get access to the swag store. Here's the reason you get in these groups. When you get around like-minded people, things start changing in your life because your mindset changes. And I know we've heard the cliche of if you think it, you get it and all that stuff. Well, that's not 100% true. You got to actually implement. but you will implement faster and more often when you are sitting in a room with other implementers. And that is the peer pressure you want to be around. You want to be around individuals that are pushing for goals in the same manner that you're trying to push for. So, Boardroom Elite, Blue Collar Millionaire, Accelerator, 2 programs, cost you a little bit. But if you're not willing to invest in yourself, then don't try to go be a business owner, because you have to constantly invest in yourself if you're going to succeed. We'll see you next week.